this is about CPI. So now we have seen WPI, wholesale price index. Now it is consumer price index. Inflation with respect to inflation indices in India, consider the following statements. So WPI basically has three types of commodities. WTI basically has three types of commodities: food and energy. WPI has three types of commodity: food and energy, power and fuel, food products, power and fuel, and manufactured goods. So WPI doesn't talk about the services. It talks about commodities, and they are categorized into three categories. Number one, food products. Number two, power and fuel. And number three, manufactured goods. So WPI talks about these three categorization of all the commodities. Now comes to CPI. The retail inflation is measured by the consumer price index. True. Just now we have seen, as a consumer, if I am buying something in less number of items or less number of commodities, like one pen, two notebooks, then it is retail price, or the inflation in the retail market is reflected by consumer price index. It is true. CPI is published by Office of Economic Advisor in the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. It is not correct. It is National Statistical Office under Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, MOSPI. NSO, National Statistical Office under Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. So it is published by this. So statement 1 is correct, 2 is incorrect. The Monetary Policy Committee, MPC, under RBI, the Monetary Policy Committee uses wholesale price index data to control inflation. No, it is not correct. Basically, they use consumer price index. Also, there are three variants of CPI, that is CPI agricultural labor, CPI industrial worker, and CPI combined. So there are three variants of consumer price index. CPI agricultural labor, basically it shows rural inflation. CPI industrial workers, basically it shows urban inflation, and CPI combined is combined. So CPI combined is the indicator which is targeted by MPC, Monetary Policy Committee. You might have learnt about CPI targets by RBI under Monetary Policy Committee. There is a target of inflation of 4% plus minus 2%. That is ranging from 2% to 6%. This is the target of Monetary Policy Committee. That inflation should be between these two extremes, that is 2% to 6%. So inflation in India should be from 2% to 6%, right? So this is the target, and this inflation is nothing but CPI combined. This is not WPI, right? So which of the statements given above are correct? Statement 1 is correct, 2 is incorrect, 3 is correct. So 3 is also not correct, right? So only 1, that is C. Answer is C, right? So I guess we understood consumer price index. Earlier question was the question number 5 was based on wholesale price index. Question number 6 is based on consumer price index. It gives information about consumer price index. Now let's come to question number 7. With reference to inflation, consider the following statement. Core inflation. Now this is another term. Core inflation includes food and energy prices. No, food and energy prices are volatile. So core inflation does not include food and energy prices. Food, shortage of food, if something happened, if agriculture is monsoon dependent and monsoon is not adequate, then your food prices will increase, right? Similarly, that goes with energy, that is oil prices, right? So if oil prices increases suddenly, for example, war is happening between two countries and the oil prices shoot up. So they are volatile. So we don't consider this in core inflation. While we calculate core inflation, we exclude food and energy prices. That is core inflation, right? So this statement is incorrect. Headline inflation does not include food and energy prices because of their volatility. This is incorrect again. Because headline inflation is what? Headline inflation is CPI combined, and CPI, that is Consumer Price Index, includes food as well as energy, right? So this statement is for core inflation. Core inflation does not include food and energy prices because of their volatility, right? But headline inflation, since they are asking about headline inflation is nothing but Consumer Price Index, CPI, and CPI includes food as well as energy, right? So this statement is also incorrect, and they are asking about which of the above statement are correct. So neither one nor two, that is answer D, right? So this is the answer. Next, come to question number 8. So this is very factual question. All India House Price Index, HPI, All India House Price Index, HPI, is released by Reserve Bank of India, Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, State Bank of India, and MOSPI, Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. So it was released by Reserve Bank of India. Basically, they surveyed 10 cities, approximately 10 cities across the country. And from these 10 cities, they talk about the housing prices. So All India House Price Index, they basically they show the inflation in house price index. So they take the data of 10 cities, premium cities, Mumbai, Delhi, Kolkata, Chennai, right? So these cities are included, some cities of Kerala, etc. So these are included in it. So 10 cities. This is the factual information, right? Report published by whom? Which of the following institute? Now come to question number 9. Consider the following statements regarding demand pull inflation. So see, there are two types of inflation based on this concept: demand pull inflation and cost push inflation. First, we will see demand pull inflation. So demand pull inflation is nothing but it happens due to increase in aggregate demand. How demand is increasing, right? So the demand can increase, a mismatch between demand and supply. See what happens, there is enough money available with the public. Money is available with the public, right? So there is enough purchasing power. Understand the situation. Enough liquidity is available in the market, enough money is available with the public. So there are money in the hands of public, and production is not happening at that particular level. So money is there in the hands of public, but production is not matching the demand. So what will happen? Too much money will chase too few goods, right? Too much money is available with the public, so too much money is chasing too few goods. That is what? Inflation. That will cause inflation. Whereas you have money, you want to buy a product, but that product is in scarce. So what will happen? The price will increase. The price will increase. That is demand pull inflation. Too much money chasing too few goods, that is demand pull inflation, right? You are having money, but production is not happening at that particular level which is being demanded. So what will happen? Too much money will chase too few goods, that is demand pull inflation. Understood? So if you have understood this point, that too much money chasing too few goods, people are having money, but production is not that adequate, inflation will happen, and that inflation will be known as demand pull inflation. A mismatch between demand and supply pulls up prices. True. Either the demand increases over the same level of supply. So supply is at the same level, but demand has increased. So that may cause inflation. Also, the supply decreases with the same level of demand, or demand is at the same level, but supply has decreased. So demand, and thus the situation of demand pull inflation arises. True. It can happen both ways, right? See, production is at the same level, but suddenly demand has increased. So what will happen? You will not be able to match the demand, right? If you are not able to match the demand is high, production is at the same level, but suddenly demand has increased. So you will not be able to match the demand. When you will not be able to match the demand, the price will increase. And when the price will increase, it is known as demand pull inflation. Another scenario is also there. What has happened is, demand is at the same level. Demand has not shot up. What happened is, supply has decreased, right? So since supply has decreased, demand is at the same level. This will also cause inflation, and it is demand pull inflation. So this is also correct. The idea of demand pull inflation belongs to Keynesian school. So this belongs to economic theories. So demand pull inflation idea comes under Keynesian school of economics, right? So 1, 2, and 3 all are correct. This is 1, 2, and 3. Now come to question number 10. Now this is cost push inflation. This is cost push inflation. So the idea in this question, what we will see, there are two types of inflation based on this concept. One is demand pull inflation, one is cost push inflation. But see, cost push inflation is also known as structural inflation, right? It is also known as structural inflation or supply side inflation, right? Supply side inflation, because if something happened means, for example, if government is taxing heavily, now government is taxing heavily, so what will happen is the price will shoot up. If price will rise, that is inflation, but that price has risen not because of the price has risen not because of demand increased. It is increasing just because cost has gone up. So if cost has gone up, it is cost push inflation. And why cost has gone up? Because government is taxing heavily. So if government is taxing heavily, or if logistical cost has increased, then also it is cost push inflation. So any factor input, an increase in factor input cost, that is wages, raw materials, pushes up prices, it is known as cost push inflation, right? So this is correct. The price rise, which is the result of increase in the production cost. So why price is rising? Price is rising because production cost is increased. It is known as cost push inflation. True. There could be other factors leading to supply side inflation, such as natural disasters or depletion of natural resources or monopoly or government regulation or taxation or change in exchange rate, etc. These could be other factors which may result in cost push inflation. It is also correct. So anything happening at supply side will result in cost push inflation. Anything happening at supply side. That's why cost push inflation is also known as supply side inflation and supply side inflation. And it is also happening because of structural backwardness in the economy. For example, logistical cost. So if infrastructure is not proper, logistical cost will increase. And if logistical cost is increasing the cost of the product, then it is known as cost push inflation, right? So here all three statements are correct. Answer will be D, 1, 2, and 3, right? Let's come to the next question. Question number 11. So we are dealing mainly with respect to the topic of inflation only. Question number 11. Now, disinflation is a decrease in the general price level of goods and services. It is opposite to inflation. No, it is not about disinflation. Basically, it is about deflation. Deflation. Deflation is the decrease in the general price level of goods and services, and deflation is opposite to inflation. So this statement is incorrect. Disinflation. Now, deflation is a slower rate of inflation. So it is not deflation. It is basically disinflation. So basically this question is testing your knowledge on whether you know the difference between disinflation or deflation or not, right? So what is deflation? Deflation is decrease in the general price level. For example, something was being sold at 5 rupees, now it is being sold at 4 rupees or 3 rupees. So in absolute terms, decrease in general price levels, right? And it is slower rate of inflation. For example, consider an example of Lexify pen. Lexify ball pen is there. Since, for example, understand, this is just an example. I'm not going with the exact value of the pen, but suppose if in 2020, suppose if that the price of that pen was 5 rupees. In 2021, it increased to 10 rupees. 100% increase, right? 10 rupees. In 2022, it increased to only 11 rupees. From 10 to 11, right? From 10 to 11, only 10% increase. So here, increase was increase in the value or increase in the cost was 100%. Here it is 10%, but it is increasing. From 10 to 11 also it is increasing. From 5 to 10 it has also increased. From 10 to 11 it is also increasing. But here the rate was 100%. Here the rate is 10%. This is what? This is disinflation. This is disinflation. It is happening at lower rate, slower rate of inflation. Inflation is still there, but the rate is slow. Understood? The inflation is still there. From 10 rupees, it has increased to 11 rupees. Inflation is still there, but the rate has decreased. So since the rate has decreased, it is known as disinflation. But what is deflation? From 11, it has come down to 7 rupees. Next year, 2022, 2023, it has come down to 7 rupees. Now inflation is not there. From 11, it has decreased. The value is decreased. It is opposite to inflation. It is opposite to inflation. This is known as deflation. This is known as deflation. It is opposite to inflation. But disinflation is slower rate of inflation. Slower rate of inflation, deflation, disinflation. Slower rate of inflation, disinflation. And decrease, opposite to inflation, decrease in the value, opposite to inflation, that is deflation, right? So, which of the following statements are incorrect? Both are incorrect. Both are incorrect. Understood? I guess the idea is clear about deflation and disinflation. The similar idea we discussed in slowdown and recession. In slowdown, what is happening? The GDP growth rate is declining, but still positive. Still positive. But in recession, what is happening? GDP growth rate becomes negative, right? Now come to next question, question number 12. Phillips curve advocates a relationship between which of the following aggregates of an economy: inflation and unemployment, demand and supply of money and rate of interest and unemployment. So Phillips curves, basically Phillips curve talks about inflation and unemployment. So here it is in rate of inflation and here it is rate of unemployment. So what Phillips curves suggest basically? When unemployment increases, inflation decreases. What happens is when unemployment is increasing, purchasing power of the people is decreasing, demand decreasing, inflation decreasing. But unemployment decreasing, this side, we are moving from here to here. Unemployment is, if this is unemployment, right? X-axis. So we are moving towards origin. So unemployment is decreasing, inflation is rising. Why? When unemployment decreases, purchasing power or purchasing capacity of the people increases. When it is increases, what is happening? Inflation increases, right? So unemployment decreases, inflation increases. Unemployment increases, inflation decreases. This idea was given by Phillips. So this is Phillips curve, which shows the relationship between inflation and unemployment. Right? Understood? What is happening when unemployment is increasing? Unemployment is increasing, purchasing power of the people decreasing, demand decreasing, hence inflation is decreasing. This unemployment is increasing, inflation is decreasing. Moving away from origin, when you are moving away from origin, unemployment is increasing, inflation is decreasing. Moving towards origin, unemployment is decreasing. When unemployment is decreasing, purchasing power of people increasing, demand increasing, inflation increasing. Phillips curve. Understood? Okay. So we will move to the next question. Question number 13. Which of the following statement are correct with respect to Basel norms? So Basel norms are basically for health of banking sector, right? How banks should provision their